Hello everybody, my name is Magnetico and welcome to my series of videos where we take video game systems, we clean them up, repair them if need be, and sometimes we mod them. And today we're going to be taking a final look at the Dreamcast that we've been working on for the last couple of months. Now, just to quickly recap, we tore this system apart, cleaned it up completely, replaced the thermal pads, and mod-wise, we did add a battery mod, a fan mod, and also we added the GDEMU, which lets us play our games from an SD card. So this system is basically complete. In this video, we're going to cover the finishing touches. Now, if you're a little bit confused coming into this video, make sure you check my previous two videos on the Dreamcast. That way you have a clean system and also a modded system so we can continue with this process. So for this particular video, we're going to go ahead and cover three things. The first thing is we're going to add an SD card adapter so we can go ahead and cover the giant hole that is in the middle of the system whenever you open the lid. The second item we're going to cover is all the accessories that I purchased for this particular system. So that way I have a complete system, at least to me, where I can go ahead and enjoy all the games to their fullest potential. And number three, we're going to cover two software items. One of them we already have with the SD card manager. We're going to go ahead and add front covers to all our games so that way whenever you're picking a game from the list, it looks super awesome and you know exactly what you're picking. I just love doing those kinds of things. The second software item we're covering is called a DreamShell, and it's basically a Dreamcast operating system that lets you do all kinds of cool things. If you still had a disk drive or still do, you can use this to back up your games as a digital format, and it also lets you back up saves among other things. The big one for me at least is the saves. I love archiving my saves once I complete a game so I can have them in my computer somewhere nice and safe whenever I'm done playing it. I do want to apologize for this video taking so long to come out. It was actually supposed to come out in December, but there is one item that I purchased in my accessory list that was giving me a lot of trouble where I was about to tear my hair out. However, I was able to figure it out and we'll go ahead and cover it in this video. But everything that I learned and all the mistakes that I've made, I can go ahead and help you guys out and give you an accurate video on how to take care of it. So if this is your kind of thing where somebody goes through and cleans up systems, repairs them if need be, and sometimes mod them, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and that way you're notified every time I post a video. Let's get started. For this project, you're going to need the Dreamcast. You're going to need the 3D printed SD card adapter from Laserbear Industries and some Phillips screwdrivers. With the Dreamcast, I'm going to flip this over immediately and remove the Ethernet adapter. With a Phillips screwdriver, I'm going to remove 4 screws located at the bottom of the Dreamcast. Now that we removed the 4 screws, I can go ahead and flip it over and remove the top shell. As you can see, all the work we did in the previous video is still here. I'm going to remove the SD card so I can put it somewhere safe. And next, we're going to remove the GDEMU board. If you remember from my previous video, I did remove those heatsinks using some Goo Gone and did a quick cleanup on the top area. The Goo Gone does a really good job of removing all that residue, especially it's very sticky. So definitely make sure you use Goo Gone. I think that had a really good effect on it. From the 3D printed bracket, I'm going to take the bottom bracket and put the GDEMU on top. These screws are not magnetic, so that's why you see me kind of holding them with my finger, but you're going to put these 2 screws at the top. As you can see, I'm screwing these very carefully only because in the past I kind of went ham on these screws and I broke them on another particular project I was working on. So now with 3D printed pieces, I tend to go a lot slower, so be careful with that. With the main part of the SD card adapter, I'm going to put this button, which actually lines up with the reset button on the GDEMU board. Let's go ahead and apply or insert the SD card adapter ribbon into the board and then fold it carefully into the actual case. As you can see here, do not crease it, do not create any actual folds on it, just bend it and make sure it has some slack in the area below. It is going to be a tight fit, but overall I didn't really have any issues with it. Once you fold it in and you're happy with it, go ahead and screw the 4 screws on each side of this bracket here. Again, not magnetic, but that is not a problem. As you can see here, everything looks pretty tight. It looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and take the bottom portion of our Dreamcast, add this large screw that came with our packet, and then we're going to insert it back into place. Next, I'm going to go ahead and screw the large screw into place here. And if you had one screw left over from the previous disk drive, you can go ahead and use that here. This is optional, but I decided to throw it in there just because there was a hole in the actual 3D printed bracket, and I just want to make sure everything is nice and tight and held together. With that done, that's pretty much it. We can go ahead and add the top portion of the shell back onto the Dreamcast here. I'm going to press the open button just to see what it looks like. And my goodness, that looks absolutely awesome. I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up, give it a quick clean, and we're good to go. Good Dreamcast. Now that we completed all the mods on our Dreamcast, now we can go ahead and talk about all the other accessories that I purchased for this Dreamcast. Now, when it comes to video, I went out to Retro Gaming Cables, which is a store based off the UK, and I purchased their component cable for the Dreamcast. Now, component is one of the things that I really enjoy doing. I did start off with SCART back in the day, but I have since just moved on to component just because it does have 480p, especially for the Dreamcast compatibility. So if you can get your hands on one of these, I definitely recommend it. Obviously you can go as video, or you can use the regular AV cable that came with the Dreamcast, but if you're trying to get the best picture imaginable, I definitely recommend going with one of these component cables from Retro Gaming Cables. So there is an HD Retrovision one, which if you guys have seen my videos before, that is my preference. I love the HD Retrovision cables, but they have been working on their Dreamcast cable for quite some time. I think since like 2020 when they announced it. So at this point, I'm not going to hold my breath. It'll come out sometime in the future. I hope, but until then, this is the one I'm recommending. The next items on the list are controllers for the Dreamcast. So of course I have the regular gray controller, but as you guys know, I always like getting a black and a red controller for my systems. Now, I did run into some issues with these because they are like pretty old. They're pretty brittle at this point, especially the jewel covered ones. So I do recommend getting the original gray or a solid color version instead of these clear ones, because I actually unscrewed the black one of these and it ended up breaking the screw hole. They're just so brittle and so old. If you really want to go with one of these, what I recommend is just going in real slow and unscrewing these controllers if you're going in to clean them. So I'd be careful. Again, these are beautiful controllers, but that is your fair warning on those. Next up, I purchased 2 memory cards for my Dreamcast. I always buy 2 memory cards, and I always tend to buy the accessories or memory cards in the original color of the system. I could have bought a smoke black one and a red one, kind of like my controllers, just to match them up. But typically with the PlayStation 2, PlayStation 1, and any other system, I always buy the regular color of them. So this is why I went with this color. But again, there are tons of color options that will fit your needs as well. So these are pretty cool. I never really messed with VMUs back in the day. So we'll definitely go through this later just to see what kind of saves we find on these later on. There is a little bit of experimenting I want to do with these first, but two memory cards. I went ahead and purchased one of these tremor packs or jump packs. I don't know what they're called. They're not a rumble pack. That's the N64, but basically one of these packs that add rumble to your controller. There are 2 slots on every Dreamcast controller where you can add the memory card and an extra accessory. In this case, I'll be playing games with one of these so we can add rumble and maybe more of an immersive experience to our games. Last but not least, this is the accessory that gave me the most amount of trouble, and this is an SD card adapter that actually goes into the serial port of the Dreamcast, and this is what you can use to back up your games, back up your saves, given that you're using DreamShell. Now, the biggest issue I ran into this was I did have a bunch of spare SD cards and micro SD cards, because the slots behind can handle either or. You have your choice of SD card or micro SD card, and none of them were working. I formatted every single one of them at FAT32 and it was not working. So basically it gave me a headache and I was just reformatting, trying all kinds of different things. Finally, I decided to go on Amazon and I found a 1 gigabyte micro SD card to see if it'll finally work. And if it didn't, I actually wasn't going to put this guy in this video, but with a 1 gigabyte SanDisk micro SD card, I was able to make it work. Thank goodness. I was getting so freaking frustrated. So this is what I recommend here. I'll go ahead and put this in the description below. Actually, all the items I'll be mentioning, I'll put in the description below. But if you guys want to back up your saves or back up your games, this is the one to use. So I don't know why it doesn't accept 32 gigabytes. I actually started with a 128 gigabyte, which I knew was too much. I just had it laying around. But again, go with the smallest card you can think of. Some people had luck with no name cards, but at this point I can tell you, for the purposes of this video, SanDisk 1 gigabyte is the way to go. So that's all the accessories that I purchased for the Dreamcast. Now that we have those set up, we can go ahead and get started with the software side of things when it comes to our Dreamcast. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some covers. Adding covers to Open Menu is not terribly difficult. Go ahead and hop on Google and look up Open Menu Assets. Once you do that, there should be a GitHub page that pops up by Mr. Neo here. And once you click on that, let's go ahead and scroll down to the installation area and look for this one link called Asset Pack. It'll take you to a MediaFire page. Go ahead and choose download. Once you click on the download button, a small file is downloaded to your computer. It is in the form of a zip file here, and it should contain the file box.dat, icon.dat, and also meta.dat. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this open for now, where I'm going to open the GD menu card manager. I'm just going to go ahead and move it over here so you guys can see it. And inside of that, there should be a tools folder. We're messing with Open Menu, so let's go ahead and open that up. And then we're going to open the file called menu data. Inside of here, we're going to take the box, icon, and the meta.dat and just throw it in there. That is pretty much all you have to do. I did start with a fresh SD card. So if you guys already have games and stuff on there, that's totally fine. But I am going to start with a fresh one here. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the GD menu, card manager, just to kind of show you guys how this works. I'm going to use Open Menu because that is the one that I prefer. And I feel like it's easier to add covers to that as well. Next, I'm going to add my games like we did in the previous video as well. So I have SNK versus Capcom. I have Marvel versus Capcom. Lots of fighting games. Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Resident Evil Code Veronica. And Shenmue. Last but not least, Soul Calibur. All right, so here we go. So once we do that, it does still pull covers from the GD menu database, as you can see here. So that's pretty cool. But again, since we're using Open Menu instead of the GD menu, it'll actually start pulling covers from instead of disk covers, it'll use actual covers. So let's go ahead and save all our changes and just make that way we can put all the games into our Dreamcast. All right, so here we are on the Open Menu, and as you can see, all the games that we added all have covers now. Don't worry about this DreamShell. I will tell you how to add that here in just a moment, but it even gives you a description of the game. It tells you how many players it is, how many blocks it takes on a VMU, whether or not it's able to use the jump pack, and even the internet. So I think some of that might be off, but it does definitely tell you the players and the blocks. But so as you can see, everything looks pretty. It looks perfect. It all pulled perfectly fine. So if you guys have any issues with this, there might be something that I can help you with. So let me know in the comments below. So for now, let's go ahead and start working on installing DreamShell. To get DreamShell, go ahead and hop into Google and look up Dreamcast DreamShell, and you'll again go to another GitHub page by DC SWAT. The latest release as of this video is the 401 release. Go ahead and click on that, and there should be a zip file for you to download. We can go ahead and hop out of Google. We can go ahead and open up the actual zip file here, and you'll see a couple files here. I'm going to go ahead and take this 401 DreamShell and put it into my desktop, and this DS one here, that is what goes into our SD card. So this is all the files we're going to be running with. So the next thing I'll do is go ahead and insert the SD card into the computer. The SD card I've already messed with already just to make sure everything was working, but the first thing we're going to look for is make sure that it is a FAT32. I'm going to go ahead and just do default allocation size. You can name it whatever you want. Since I'm using it specifically for DreamShell, I'm going to go ahead and name it DreamShell. So make sure it is formatted in FAT32. Go ahead and open up this file. And again, all the files located in the SD menu, or DS menu, I'm sorry, we're going to go ahead and take all of those and just throw it into the micro SD card, or SD card, whichever one you guys chose to go with. Once that's done, we can go ahead and close out of this, and we can go ahead and remove the micro SD card or SD card from your computer. And we have to insert the SD card where we put all our games back into our computer. So here is the GDEMU card with all our games there. I'm going to go ahead and open up the card manager once again. And next we're going to go ahead and add the DreamShell into it here. So as you can see, it'll go at the very bottom. You can go ahead and add it to wherever you want. You can add it as the number 2 if you wanted to. It doesn't really matter. But once you add it in there, go ahead and save changes. And as you can see, it is complete. Now, typically, I would prefer this to be right under open menu, but since we already added the games, it's not really a big deal. If you guys want to rename it, you totally can. You can resort the list, as you can see here. It'll do it by order, but you can also rename the numbers if you wanted to. So again, it's up to you how you guys want to do it. I prefer DreamShell to be under open menu, but for the sake of this tutorial, let's just go ahead and save the changes. Okay, now we can go ahead and remove the SD card from our computer. So now that we're back on open menu, we can go to the DreamShell option here, and we can go ahead and load it up. As you can see, it's super fancy, and it's basically a complete operating system for your Dreamcast, which is absolutely awesome. There's a file manager, GD Play, you can do a speed test, and you can even rip your GDI discs. Now, since we removed our disk drive, we can't really do that, but if you still have one, you can use this program to back up your games. Now, you can play them from the serial port on your Dreamcast, but you're going to have a bad experience because it'll be super choppy. It's just not fast enough to load cutscenes and a lot of other things. So not a recommended experience, but ripping your disc, I think, is absolutely fantastic. So the main reason we're here, however, is for the VMU. So we're going to go over to VMU Manager. It recognized one here. I already did a backup save of something here, but the issue I was running into was that this particular memory card icon was not lit up because it wasn't accepting my 32 gigabyte or my 128 gigabyte cards, even if they were formatted at FAT32. That was the issue that I was having with this particular program. So with the 1 GB one that I got from SanDisk, it is finally lit up. We can go ahead and hit it. We can go to VMU. Again, I already did a backup save here for Berserk, but we'll do another one for Code Veronica here. We just got to double tap A to copy. You're not going to see it right away. You do have to back up, unfortunately, and go back to VMU. And as you can see, we were able to back up our save. And that is the one thing that I needed from this program. So I am so happy that it's finally working. Again, get yourselves a 1 GB as SanDisk, I should say, 1 GB SanDisk micro SD card, and that is the way to go. So I'm happy. Let's go ahead and move on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and that does it for our time with this Dreamcast. This Dreamcast, it is special. I learned so many things from this particular system, and hopefully you guys did as well if you were following along with this particular tutorial. We have cleaned up this system, modded it, and it has all the programs that it needs in order to give us the best experience possible, including all the accessories that I purchased as well. So I'm ready to play all the games on this. There's so many games I want to play on this, especially because I actually didn't own one as a kid. I played it through, friend. I think my cousin had one, and there's just a lot on this that I can appreciate. So I'm super pumped to play this. I can see why people really love this system. It was such a joy to work with. So if this is your kind of thing where somebody goes through and cleans up systems, repairs them if need be, and sometimes mods them, make sure you hit the subscribe button. That way you're notified every time I post a video. I'm going to go ahead and keep playing this Dreamcast. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me for this Dreamcast adventure. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, you guys have a good one. Bye-bye.